All right, welcome to the program. It is a Wednesday afternoon. I saw that sun peeking through those clouds just a little bit out there. I think we're going to see some sun before this afternoon is over. What a beautiful sunset yesterday. Just happened to time my walk yesterday after work and everything with the sunset. All right, thank you for that. Howie Carr, big voice guy promoting Howie Carr. Don't know where that came from, but hey, the mayor just walked in the door, and Jonathan, and so here we all are on this beautiful Wednesday afternoon, and everybody's where they're supposed to be, and you've got your Feast of the Blessed Sacrament shirt on today, Mayor. Why?
I'm wearing it with pride. It's comfortable.
Oh, I thought maybe there was like an event going on or something.
I washed it. It's clean.
I thought maybe it was feast weekend and I slept through the whole year or something like Rip Van Winkle.
No. We're just still on feast leftovers at this point.
So, how's it going?
Yeah, things are going well.
We're in our normal time slot.
You know what we are? It's just it's hitting me right now, Barry. This is
Wednesday.
Back to normal.
Yeah. Well, you know, the silly
for
season's
as long
over.
as normal lasts.
Summer's over, and now we get back into old routines and all of that stuff.
Yeah, until we're not. Yeah.
When is the first day of fall? Is it tomorrow? Tomorrow's the 20th.
Isn't
right?
it when the leaves start falling? I don't know. I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, I think to me either tomorrow or the next day. Anyway, so summer is pretty much over, and now we're getting into our fall habits and getting ready for winter and all that kind of stuff. And,
are you one of these people who says, "Oh, I like to change the seasons"?
No.
Me neither.
No, I'm a summer kid.
Me too.
I'm still wearing my flops and shorts and T-shirts
and
all
that
stuff. So yeah. So we got enough salt and sand and all that crap to take us through the winter.
You really know how to ruin the mood, don't you? Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, we have that stuff stocked up.
Yeah.
I
know there's a winter like 2 years ago or something, like there was a shortage of salt or something. I think we were like, going to restaurants and emptying out the salt shakers. And
no, I remember. Well, so it was 2015, like February 2015. Remember we had that big freeze?
Yeah.
And all that snow, and so we used a lot of ice. But I got a call at the time. The funniest story was I got a call at the time from Angel Tavares, who was the mayor of Providence at the time, and he said, "Hey, John, can I borrow some salt?" So it's kind of like going over to your neighbor's house to get some milk or butter.
Yeah.
Right? So how much do you need? Well, I need 100 tons. So it happened that we had it, and he repaid us with interest later. I think they gave us like 120 back, so it worked out for us. It was a good deal for New Bedford. That Providence had fallen short.
Yeah, I seem to remember that was quite common that year. There was there was
a lot of that
like a real shortage of it.
And there was.
They were selling salt on the black market, you know.
Yeah, it comes from so if you want to talk about salt, it actually comes from on ships to Boston as well as to Providence, and a lot of it comes from mines, and I think in Chile, or somewhere in South America.
The salt mines, thus the expression the salt mines. There you go. Yeah. I didn't realize salt came from mines.
Yeah, so there you go.
All right.
Where the dwarfs worked, right?
No, they were in the diamond mines.
Oh, the diamond mines. That's right. They weren't the salt mines. Yeah.
So, I mean, winter is a real thing. I mean, I guess this is about the time of year you guys start taking stock of what we got, right?
No, we're still keeping an eye on hurricanes right now.
Are you really? Why is there one coming? Or
not that I know of, but it's funny. It's not funny for folks in North Carolina, but remember I was on a couple of weeks ago and you asked me, so are you guys doing any preparations around Florence? And I said, we're doing some. We're keeping an eye on it, and so that prompted me to go back. I asked our guys in DPI and our emergency manager Brian Nobrega to take a look and a closer look at it, and that prompted me to do a little Google search. And so I went on Google, and there was a Washington Post piece that was printed that day that said it said that since 1851, there have been 67 identified storms that were within 200 nautical miles of where Florence was the day I was on the show, right? And not a single one of them hit the U.S. mainland.
No kidding.
So I was like,
piece of cake, we're all set.
Yeah, never mind that. And ended up hitting North Carolina.
There's always the one.
Crazy. Yeah.
There's always that one.
Yeah.
That's why we have averages of stuff, right?
It's just it's a little.
So she came through here yesterday with a real bluster, and it kind of just sneaked right out of here before the day was over. I was just talking about how beautiful the sunset was yesterday after the storm came through.
Grass, the lawns were watered,
Yeah.
No big deal.
So what about ABC and the trash? Where are we?
Where are we? Well, there's not much to report this week. The rejected carts are way down. On the first day, I've
noticed that. Yeah.
Yeah, on the first day there were over 900 carts rejected, and yesterday there were 46. So it's gone steadily, dramatically down from where it was, and I think that's by and large a good trend. I mean, it means that they're not. I mean, I presume that they are not being sticklers like the way they were, or rejecting bins on illegitimate bases. And at the same time, it probably also means that people are adjusting their habits as well. They're not putting ineligible items into the recycling bin, so that's a good thing.
And that too is a good thing. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. As far as the court case goes, the ABC asked that the court transfer the case to Boston to the what's called the business litigation section of the Superior Court, and then the judge denied that. So appropriately so. So it's staying here in New Bedford, and we'll see what happens. As far as everything else goes, it's they're picking up the trash, they're picking up the recycling. We're keeping an eye on things, and we'll see where it goes from here.
Any date for this thing to go to court at this point?
No, there aren't. There isn't a pending motion to dismiss or motion for summary judgment. So we'll just we'll see what happens. They're providing the service, and if they're providing the service, we're not going to be in a rush to do anything.
All right. So at this moment, there's no imminent court action.
No, the one that was imminent was the one that was the transferring of the case to Boston, and that was denied.
All right.
As it should. A judge here and a jury here should be hearing the case if it ultimately gets that far.
Any further communication between your administration and ABC?
I know the lawyers talk. I haven't had any direct communication. I think we've been doing it mostly, over your show.
Yeah, I think so too. I think you're absolutely right. I think most.
Yeah, no, the lawyer. I mean, it's in court, so obviously the lawyers are going to be the ones who do the communicating.
Okay, so with this reason, at this point, no reason for folks to be concerned that trash won't get picked up.
No, I think, and we will continue our efforts as we have. Well, since we instituted the recycling procedures a few years ago to educate people about what's in and what's out, and so I know that. So our folks who are responsible for this for recycling are going to be printing out more forms. We're going to be putting stickers on barrels in places in the next few weeks that illustrate, what should be recycled and what isn't. So what shouldn't be. So, people will see that, and I think it's we want the right things to be recycled. We want the right things in the trash, and never the twain shall meet.
Right. And I mean, to that extent, ABC's got a legitimate point. I mean, this whole thing about sending you a bill for more money, that's a whole different subject. But they are saying that, look, it's costing us more to dispose of dirty recyclables. And people need to be educated in how, what goes in and what doesn't.
We've done a lot over the years.
And I'll tell you what, I'm out there Monday morning digging in my trash to make sure my son's not throwing things in there that don't belong in there. I'm pulling them out. So I think people are doing that as well.
Beware those pizza boxes, Barry.
Yeah, well, they had
the bottom of the pizza box.
I guess they got this big plastic container full of hot wings for the football game on Sunday, and so that made it into the recyclables. And I'm like, no, it's got food residue on it. It goes in the trash over here. Yeah, I'm gonna come home and find a sticker on it. They're gonna talk about me on the radio and everything. So it is making people more aware. And, as I mentioned last week when I drove up Wood Street, it was like every other can had a sticker on it. This week I looked and no cans had a sticker, not one.
Yeah, so we want people to do it the right way, and we'll continue our efforts. We maintain a website, we educate, we do stuff in schools, we have, a number of initiatives, and if we can do that better, we're certainly open to it.
All right, so that's the trash for this week.
That's it. Yeah, that's not. As a subject matter, it's not yielding as much for talk radio this week. But
things are going better. If you come home and your can is still there, then that is the most.
I mean, so people were definitely talking last week. So we had, I don't know what it was.
Do you get calls at your office?
Oh yeah. So But those are way down. We had, I'm trying to remember the numbers.
I mean, I actually had people calling me saying they were going to go to your house and dump the recyclables on your front lawn.
Well,
so that didn't happen.
That's not nice.
No.
Yeah. Yeah. No, we had, I think last week, I don't know, I think it was like 50 calls and, or 50 calls on the first day. I think it was 50 calls on the first day. And today we had 0 yesterday. We had 0 today. So, you know, look, if people are doing better with recycling, that's great. And
I find that the public, the people that are calling me anyway, are fairly well supportive of both ABC and the city on this. And it's very difficult to choose a side. I think they want, most of the people that have called me want to see this work out in a way that's beneficial for both the city and ABC, because generally they like what's going on.
Well, we like the service, and we want, you know, the service to continue, preferably with ABC. But at the same time, you know, the city, as we've discussed a number of times, the city agreed to a price, and without any contingency for their costs going up. And, you know, look, I mean, I think it would be irresponsible for me to go back to taxpayers and say, you know, this is, you know, let's just give them more money. We can't do that. We'd have every vendor that the city does business with saying the same thing. Every bus contract, everybody who provides a service, and we just can't do that.
So seems like we've got a real estate boom going on in New Bedford, huh? I mean, I walk 4 miles a day, as you know, and it seems like every day there's a different house up for sale, and you go by 2 days later, it's sold. And it seems to be.
Well, where you're walking in the North End, has the real estate market's really picked up. It's really picked up. You know, I tell the story that, you know, when my grandmother passed away last year, my mother and my uncle, she lived on Ohio Street, Ohio and Caswell, and you know, my mother and my uncle decided, well, we're gonna put the house up, and I said, who'd you get for a broker? They said, we're not doing a broker. And I thought they were being cheapskates, like, you go hire a broker, but the broker takes whatever it is, 5% or 6%, whatever it is these days. And so I said, it's going to take you forever to sell. And they had it sold in 2 days. And I was like, wow. So it's been happening in Ward 1 in particular for good reason. I mean, Ward 1, the ward is a great ward. It's, you know, you've got fairly pleasant neighborhoods, well laid out. It's, you know, it's just a good place to live, good schools. I mean, the whole thing. So, but we're also seeing in the last couple of, you know, since that, really in the last year, we've seen the rest of the city pick up. So, so the sales have been good, and, you know, we're mindful, you know, we can remember what happened in 2008, where there was a run up in the real estate market and the bubble burst, and housing values came down, crashed down, and people, couldn't make their mortgages and were foreclosed on, and we had all kinds of vacancies, and it's taken us a number of years for those vacancies to work themselves through the real estate market. But the vacancies are way down now. We had, you know, 5 years ago, I think there were 200 vacancies in the city, and there are fewer than 50 now. Actually, maybe well fewer than 50. So the market is definitely firming up. There's new construction of single-family homes, again, not too far from where you live.
Phillips Road, yeah. They're going up
right off of Phillips Road. So there are about 25 houses going in there. And then there are, you know, pockets of houses going in, you know, in different places around the city. So so it's good. It's good. It's, you know, it means when, you know, the real estate market's going up, it means that people tend to put, even if they're not selling their home, they tend to put more money into their homes, because they know they're going to get that money back if they were to sell it at some later point. So so that's good. It's good for neighborhood stability, and it's good for the city overall.
So my understanding was that we had a housing shortage. We didn't have enough housing to meet the demand here. First of all, was that true?
No, I don't believe it to be true. I mean, I believe it's true in Boston. I believe it's true in New York and San Francisco and those places where they have red hot real estate markets, but, you know, not here. You know, it's not to say for any given individual. Someone might say, well, how can you say that? I looked forever for a good house and I couldn't find it. Well, what I'm talking about is overall in the market. As the market goes, you know, there isn't, we still have some vacancies. The price points here are dramatically lower than they are in places like Boston and New York. And so, you know, so I'm not one of those people who says, you know, we've got.
What about rental units?
So So some rental units are being added to the market. You know, we've tried very hard to add rental units in the downtown. It's been a little bit of a struggle, in part because the rents in New Bedford are such that they're not high enough to support the construction of new apartment buildings. The construction costs are such sort of throughout New England that, well, they're relatively high, and the rents here in New Bedford compared to the rest of New England are relatively low. So it's been hard to get some of those projects off the ground, but we would like to see more density, certainly in the downtown, more apartment buildings, more rental units, and that would support retail and all the other stuff going on in the downtown.
By and large, in the neighborhoods, we have enough rental properties to meet the need?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you ask most landlords, especially of 3-family houses, 2 and 3 families, particularly 3-family houses, that there's still some vacancies, and I think they're being more selective, as they should. I mean, as you know, we've been much stricter in enforcing the building code and the trash code than in years past, and as a result, that's forced some of the landlords, especially in 3-family houses, the traditional tenements, to be more selective about their tenants. They're looking for tenants who they can trust to put out the trash and just keep the place up.
So while, residential real estate is moving, it's booming. Houses barely on the market and they're being sold. Commercial real estate's not moving at all.
No, it is. It's coming up.
I had a guy in the commercial real estate tell me that could take a couple of years to get a piece of commercial real estate moved. There just isn't a big market for it.
I beg to differ. I mean, I think, if you asked, for instance, Derek Santos, the director of our Economic Development Council, he'd say, no, that's, the commercial properties are moving. We don't have enough commercial properties in the city. That's why we're, looking at the golf course development. The industrial park, the business park, for the first time in its 60-year history, is fully built out. It's fully occupied. Every single parcel is either occupied or under agreement. And so, which is a good problem for us to have, but we sort of now.
I would consider that more industrial, though. I'm thinking like retail space
space.
Yeah, I mean, we're still we've talked about it before. Kings Highway is still pretty much a ghost town.
Oh yeah, so it depends. It depends on where you're talking around the city. So,
well, specifically the area that I was talking about with this gentleman was on the boulevard. Just north of Tarkhill Hill Road and maybe south of Voke. There's a number of businesses there that have been there forever that are due to the owners of these buildings reaching retirement age. There's Camione, for example, is up for sale. The Monument Company across the way is up for sale.
Monument, yeah. Some of those are retirements. Ronnie Camione.
Yeah, Ronnie's retiring, and so is Hancock.
So Mr.
The gentleman at Hancock. Hancock's not his last name, but
geez, it's John Ricciuti.
Yeah. And so I'm told a couple of others there are available as well, even though they don't have signs on them. And we know the New York Buffet is out of business now. They closed down about a month and a half or so ago. Yeah. So I mean, there's some good, what I would think would be prime spots there.
Well, you can't look at those particular properties and make sort of general conclusions about the the overall market in the city. I mean,
well, I was told this by a realtor that
well, I mean,
properties like this could conceivably be on the market for a couple of years because there just isn't a big demand for them.
I'm not so sure about that. I mean, it depends. I mean, look, we had all those calls a few weeks ago about the New England Farms. That is a convenience store that's being built at the entrance to the industrial park. Yep. So, I mean, that stuff is getting built. There's some retail vacancies outside of the downtown. There aren't as many vacancies, retail storefront vacancies in the downtown as there were a few years ago. It's largely full. And then you have like shopping plazas like Kings Highway, which has been more or less on the market for a few years now, and it's they have leases that they have to get out from before they can really unload something like that.
Sure. What about that area, though, on the boulevard that we're talking about? How I mean, is that something that the city gets involved in helping to market that? What would you like to, your vision
what would you
of that?
Like
what would you like to see? It's
kind of your neighborhood. Yeah. What would you like to see there?
I'd like to see some more restaurants, personally. Yeah, I would. I'd like to see like a Portuguese buffet or something. Or an Italian buffet. You know, we've got Chinese buffets all over the place, right?
Yeah.
But where's the Portuguese buffets and the Italian buffets or the seafood
Well, if you're talking big restaurants, it's worth talking about this stuff. You know, so people do wonder about it. So they wonder, like, why don't we have more chain restaurants? Well, first of all, I like our locally owned restaurants, you know, me personally, but I understand why people like to see chains set up. But when any chain restaurant looks for a place to go, they usually, you know, have their market studies that show, you know, among others, that show demographic data within concentric circles around their place and around the proposed site. And they look at, you know, incomes and age and so forth, and they determine whether, you know, what they're selling might fit the market. And so you don't get, and accessibility too. This stuff, especially for chains like to be near highways, right? So, you know, in that area, you're not far from a highway, you know, but you're not that close, right? So there are exits not too far away in each direction, but even still, it's not like it's like just off the off ramp. So you're probably looking at more traditional places that will go there. And you know, sometimes people come in and they'll ask for help from the EDC, and the EDC has loan programs and it has programs to help people with business plans, which is a big thing. And a lot of new entrepreneurs start off with no business plan, which is not a good move, you know. So if you're thinking opening a business, you got to have a plan. But you know, in that particular area, look, I think it'll get developed eventually. I mean, just think of all those businesses that have been around there. The potting bench has been there for a long time. You know, you can remember Yvette's ice cream. That was there. They retired. The bourgeois who owned Yvette's. Yeah. You know, Gil Cost Insurance. I mean, just thinking of all those places right there. So you know,
Friendly's, there was a Friendly's there too. Do you remember Friendly's where the booze shop is now? I'm
trying to remember. Yeah, vaguely. There used to be a gas station where the Dunkin' Donuts was, right? Wasn't there like a mobile there once?
That I don't remember. Yeah. I don't remember what was there before Dunkin' Donuts. I know there was something there. There was something on the opposite. There was a gas station on the opposite corner.
You're right. Yeah.
But I don't remember what what was there before Dunkin'. But yeah, I remember Friendly's was there. So that was a very developed area.
Yeah. So that'll come around. So you've seen also in that area in the last few years a number of retail banking branches open, right? So, you know, so people, you know, I think that area, once you start seeing that stuff, and then you'll start to see restaurants and other things. But, you know, understand too, I mean, I'll just add one more thing. You know, the nature of retail is changing. So, you know, buying on Amazon and Walmart are the 2 800-pound gorillas in the room. And, you know, they do suck up a lot of the normal retail market, not only from, you know, department stores and the like, but also from everything, including grocery stores, increasingly so. So, that and both of them. So, you know, that's a, you know, however it plays out, New Bedford and really every city in America will ultimately have a retail footprint that's a lot smaller than it was 20 years ago.
Is that a residential? Is that residential / commercial? That strip that we're talking about?
Yeah, well, I think there are some houses along the way.
Yeah, I mean, could those properties actually become housing at some point?
I guess so. I can't remember what exactly the zoning category is there, but
no marijuana shops though, because that's near Volk.
No marijuana shop. I think that area is excluded from marijuana.
Probably too close to Volk, right? Yeah. For green lunches. What about the old Shaw's? Any bites on that?
Over on Kings Highway.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what that. So that whole plaza is owned by what's called a real estate investment trust, a REIT as they're called, and they have. I know they've been marketing the place, and I think they marketed it to, among others, Walmart at some point. But I also know that they, you know, they still have some leases. Some of those businesses are still under lease, and they don't want to get out from those leases. The occupants, the tenants. So it's hard to sell properties that still are, you know, encumbered by leases. So I think that's one of the things they're dealing with now.
Is the train station still under consideration for general area? That's general.
It is, yeah. As far as I know, as far as what the state has said is that that's still under consideration. Although I don't think that's the station there is contemplated for the Middleborough route, which is you'll remember is the so-called first phase that the Baker administration is pursuing. So we're looking at, as I understand it, one station. That's the downtown station, the Wales Tooth station.
So, Mayor, speaking about Baker, Mayor Correa over in Fall River endorsed Baker over Gonzalez. He's a Democrat. Are you endorsing anybody in the race?
I might. I might. I have no announcements to make today.
Have they asked you?
Yeah.
Have both of them asked you?
Yeah.
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 Would you consider Baker?
I have a good relationship with him. And, I think we've worked well on some things. There's some things that they haven't done well, to my mind. But, I'm also a Democrat. So, at the end of the day, that does mean something. I think the parties, as you guys often discuss on the air, both parties are in flux right now. So we'll see. I mean, I do take party affiliation seriously. I know it's something for very understandable reasons that people don't find as important anymore. But when you're in public office, sometimes you can draw more attention to yourself for decisions when you break from the party than when you don't. Sometimes the place is better off when you stick to your affiliation. So I'm taking all those things under consideration.
So you should be an independent. Then you can go either way and not be pulled into any party.
He picked up a lot of mayors for sure. Not probably the majority of mayors in the state, including a lot of Democrats.
All right, let me take a break. We'll come back and open the phones. Wow, I can't believe it's already into the next half hour. Let me do this, and then we'll come back. We've got some other topics, and we'll talk, of course, about those, as well as take some calls, too, for the mayor at 508-996-0500. Stay with us. All right, we're supposed to be hearing a welcome back to the Barry Show, but we didn't hear that. I'm not quite sure why we didn't hear that, but we're back anyway.
I hope they didn't hear your salty language, Barry.
I actually dropped that the other day on the air, and I had to dump myself. Because
no kidding.
I have a potty mouth. I'm the first one to admit it.
You're gonna be writing a check to the FCC after that.
I just kind of blew myself away because usually I'm pretty good. I can control it, but it just came right out the other day, and I just kind of like whoo, and I hit the dumb button right here. The listeners must have thought it was the caller that said something, but it was actually
blame
me.
it on the caller.
Yeah.
Sure.
But I mean, I'm the first to admit it. I grew up in New Bedford. I got some salty language there, and it really takes an effort to keep it from going out over the airwaves sometimes. So let's get your headphones on because we got a whole bunch of people that are just chomping at the bit to talk politics. So they got a couple of other topics we're going to raise too. But in the meantime, let's get to your calls. 508-996-0500, and you are first with the mayor on WBSM. Thanks for hanging on.
Hello, Barry. How are you?
I'm good. How you doing?
Good. You didn't talk to Mayor Mitchell about Jeff Deal.
About who?
Jeff Deal, to sit down and have a meeting with him because of the fishing problem here in New Bedford.
You're going to sit down and talk to Jeff Deal about the fishing problem in New Bedford? He's got a, 15-member commission that he's put together, advisory panel on the fishing industry.
Well, he's come in. He came into my office a number of months ago to ask me, to help, to ask questions of me about the fishing industry. And, I have a policy in which, look, Republican or Democrat, whatever the candidate, if they're running for, statewide office or federal office, if they've got questions about New Bedford, I'll answer them. If the person's a legitimate candidate, and because I think it only helps if New Bedford's interests are elevated in the campaign itself. So, he's a nice guy. I had some friends in common, and he asked a number of good questions about the industry, and so I gave him, my 2 cents. And we were last night talking a lot about the industry at an event at the Waypoint Event Center on a matter that I think is really important, and I think everybody has to pay attention to, and it has to do with the development of offshore wind leasing areas off the coast of New York that are in prime scalloping grounds. The long and short of what I had to say last night is that the federal government is proposing to put wind farms in places where, Bedford fishermen fish primarily. Let me put it this way: where a lot of New Bedford fishermen fish, where a lot of scallops are caught and brought back here, and I think they have to be very careful about where they site wind farms in that area, or else they're going to cause, not only a lot of economic harm here, but they're going to, force us to litigate it. We already have a lawsuit pending against the Bureau of Ocean Energy Management about one of the wind areas that they leased off of New York a couple of years ago, and they're looking to expand that area significantly. And so, I hope that these things don't end up in court, but they may well, because there's a lot at stake.
All right, 508-996-0500, and you are next on WBSM. Good afternoon. Hello, you're on the air with the mayor.
Nothing.
All right, you're next with the mayor. Go ahead.
Hi, Barry. Mayor Mitchell.
Hi.
Hey, I got a quick question for you and the mayor, Barry. 2 separate questions. Barry, you like trying different restaurants? Have you tried Tia Maria's?
Oh, yeah, many times. Downtown, yeah.
Yeah. Wonderful menu.
Fabulous. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Love it. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Quick question for the mayor.
Mm-hmm.
You were speaking about...
You didn't want to ask me about Tia Maria's? I eat there a lot.
Yeah, well, I was impressed with the place when the wife and myself went.
Yeah.
Quite impressed with the food and the menu.
Yeah. They have a great breakfast, too, I don't know if you ever tried their breakfast there.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Ian Abreu actually took me out for breakfast there one time. That's
nice.
how I know that.
I hope he paid.
He did. As I remember, anyway.
Yeah, we actually saw it on Chronicle because I didn't know that the place existed.
Oh, no kidding.
Oh.
Yeah, they made it onto Chronicle, and we went down probably a week or so later, and quite frankly, like I said, the food was very, very good, and I liked the atmosphere, and we were very satisfied.
There are a lot of really nice restaurants downtown now.
Yes, there are. Yes, there are.
Yeah.
So the owner, Jessica Coelho, has done a fabulous job turning that place into a real destination. The food's really good. It's very hubbubby.
It's a nice, quaint little place, too, especially being located downtown as it is.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. So that wasn't what you were going to ask me, though.
No. The question I have for you, Mayor, is, you were speaking about the properties in New Bedford. Any idea as to, or have you heard anything as to what's going to go on with the Continental Screw property?
Yeah, the Continental Screw, Billy 19, that whole area over there.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's was owned by Paul Bishens, who owned a number of mill properties in the city, and I think he also owned the plaza right next door with the McDonald's. And Paul passed away unexpectedly about a year ago. So his son, Andrew, is now running the real estate operation. And Paul's a New Bedford guy, lived in Portsmouth, Rhode Island, but still held lots of properties, and including that one. And so they knocked down the Building 19 site as well as the oil tank there, in part to start marketing that site for basically for big box retail, which works, I think, pretty well there. Just because, again, it's one of those places that's, it's right between two highways. So, the Mount Pleasant Hathaway Road, as it comes into Mount Pleasant, is just, it's an area where you can go on and off the highway in either direction. So, and it's on a busy road that can support the traffic. And so, so they're, I think it's taken a little bit of time. I know that they have, they've obviously transitioned from the owner who passed away to his son, and that's they've had to work out a lot of stuff. But that's the idea there is to market it to a big box store.
Okay.
All right. Thanks for the call. Appreciate it. By the way, Abru just reminded me that we went Dutch that day, so nobody paid. 508-996-0500. And you are next on WBSM. Good afternoon.
Hi, are you talking to me?
I'm talking to you.
I'm listening.
Hi.
He's talking. I'm listening.
Oh, thank you so much. Well, good afternoon, gentlemen.
Good afternoon.
Hi, my name is Irene. Mayor Mitchell, I'm sorry to bother you, but I wanted to ask you about the roads getting repaired. I'm pretty sure you had said at one point contractors, you were going to make sure that they cleaned up their area and did proper fixing of the road after they worked on it. And in front of my house at 214 Summer Street, I think it was the city that worked on some pipes under the road, and they left 2 6-foot square, rectangular pits, holes, and they just put some kind of loose gravelly fill over it. And they've been by it a couple of times to put more loose gravelly fill, kind of a half, whatever job. And it's been 4 months now. It's been 4 months, and it's winter's coming, and it's going to be a big mess.
4 months, really? Well, there may be a good reason for it, but whatever the reason, we'll make sure you get an answer. So, sometimes they have to go back in for whatever reason. It's hard for me to know. But can you do me a favor? Can you call the mayor's office and just leave your phone number, and we'll get you an answer, whatever that answer is, and make sure that it's getting the attention it needs?
Okay, well, that would be very nice. I appreciate that. I vote, I pay my taxes, so I would like something to be done.
No, it's a fair question.
All right, well, thank you so much.
You bet. Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
All right, thanks for the call. It's amazing how, we can talk about big stores and developments and offshore wind. It all comes down to that, right?
That's my job, Barry.
Yeah, that's what it all comes down to.
You got to do it all.
And I mean, that's legit. That's what gets politicians
totally
elected.
legit.
Yeah.
It's totally legit. Look, I mean, it's people work hard. They pay their taxes. That's a reasonable expectation. If there's an opening in the street in front of a house and it's there for 4 months,
that's the most important issue.
I would be calling up. I'd be calling up too. Now, the city might have a legitimate reason for that, for leaving it that way, because it might have to go back in for whatever reason. But she's entitled to an answer.
Yeah, absolutely, no question. And we're going to get it for her, right?
Yep.
All right, let me take a break. 508-996-0500 if you have a question for the mayor. We're here till 1 o'clock, midweek with the mayor, and we'll be back right after this at 1420 WBSM. All right, welcome back to the program. It is now about 9 minutes before the top of the hour. We've been chatting about a whole bunch of stuff with Mayor Mitchell on Midweek with the Mayor. And so, you brought up the issue of the offshore wind farms and all of that. Now, obviously, the problem with New York is still quite a big concern. Now, are we making any progress with the local company that we want to work with here? Mm-hmm. And there was some concern about configuration of their wind situation as well, their turbines as well.
Well, so the short answer is yes. So, and there have been lots of discussions that we have facilitated between the fishing community and the offshore wind developers, not just Vineyard Wind, the one that won the first award, but the other developers in the Massachusetts waters as well. And, it's centered around, the discussion center around the spacing between turbines, right? They have to be wide enough apart so that you can safely navigate a fishing boat through them. It's important that they be aligned in a grid-like fashion as opposed to scattered all over the place, because, then it becomes an obstacle course for a fishing boat.
That's Pac-Man.
Yeah, exactly. So you want to avoid that. And I think we've made a lot of progress on both of those fronts. The other big thing is what are called the transit lanes, which are essentially the highways across wind farms, which are should be wider than the spaces between the windmills, and that allows for more ready transit by fishing vessels from point A to point B. And so I think we've made some progress on there. I think there's still a little ways to go, but essentially, our goal is to make it safe for fishermen and allow the wind companies to use the space they've leased effectively to produce as much energy as possible.
So we have an agreement on all of this now?
I think we're getting closer to it. Yeah, closer to an understanding. We have we have our working group of fishing interests that because we're the port of New Bedford, we have the ability to convene folks here in the industry, unlike anywhere else, and so we're able to facilitate those discussions meaningfully. And I think we're a lot better off than we were, say a year ago, when there were certain wind companies that were putting windmills in places that looked like almost like a scatter plot, and where there wasn't any kind of understanding about transit lanes and how they should line up across separate wind farms. So we've made some progress there. As far as Vineyard Wind itself goes, we had I had lunch with their CEO yesterday, Lars Peterson, who we talked to for a while about how the progress they're making, and it sounds like they are making good progress and getting their permits in place. And so we're hopeful that we'll start to see some windmill components on our waterfront in the next couple of years. It takes a while, the permitting process, and then they have to lock down their financing. They get money from major commercial banks and private equity firms and other sources to fund the wind farm, the construction of the wind farm, and then they've got to procure all the stuff, so the blades and the towers and the nacelles and everything else that goes, the cable, everything that goes into the wind farm. So, it's a major undertaking. And I think once there have been a few of these farms done in the next few years, then you'll see the process speed up, and it'll start to become, a little more fluid.
You mentioned the golf course earlier. What's up with the golf course? How's our progress moving with that?
Yeah, so, you probably saw the piece in the Standard Times that Mike Bonner did a couple of weeks ago, a week and a half ago, I guess it was, about the status. It's taken longer than we had anticipated, because after we announced that we were exploring the idea, the state Supreme Judicial Court came down with a decision that broadly expanded the protections around so-called parkland, right? It essentially said in a decision involving the city of Westfield that virtually any land that had been accepted as a park or as public recreation space by a public body, like a city council, would fall under the protections of Article 97 of the state constitution. And if it falls under those protections, then it takes a 2/3 vote of the legislature to remove those protections. So whereas we thought that the land hadn't been protected by Article 97, we found out doing our research that in the early 60s, the city accepted a $700 grant from the federal government to hire, essentially to hire folks to no, it was to acquire part of the golf course. That's what it was. So it was $700 to acquire some of the land that had been left behind from I think it was the construction of 195. And so because of that, the city council accepted that $700, and with it the string that was attached was that the land had to be treated as open space. Then we were stuck with the protections of the state constitution.
So we need a 2/3 vote of the legislature.
So we need a 2/3 vote. So
has anything been prepared?
So
on
what
that?
happened? So we've had to work our way through it, and what so these votes take place with some fairly routinely, right? So if a city or town wants to open up for commercial development something that had been protected as parkland, right? They usually have to replace it with something else, right? So we've been going about the business of looking for what we could replace it with. The difficulty in New Bedford is there isn't a whole lot of extra land lying around. That's why we're looking at developing the golf course in the first place. So we're working on that. And it could
Can we give them North Front Street?
No.
It's not a fair trade?
No. We're looking at city-owned land and in a number of places, and I think there's going to be a way to.
So we have to trade off an equal amount of land.
Yeah, that's ordinarily
with who? With the state?
So what we would do is we take other land that we own and subject it to other land we own that's not protected and declare it to be protected parkland.
Well, we've just built, like Riverside. Why can't we do that with that? So here you go. It's already built. It's protected. Protect it.
Well, because it's already protected, right?
Well, we protect it. Let them protect it.
No, I know. But the state
work?
has its definition of what protected is. So we have to look for land that is unprotected and exchange it for the land that's on.
How big of a parcel do we need?
It's it's about 110 acres.
Does it have to be used as park space?
No, not necessarily. It has to be protected as open space. Right?
Open space.
In other words, it can't be developed.
All right. So,
So
how about the beach?
We're looking around. We're looking
bay.
around. We're probably going to cobble together a couple different sites so that I think at some point in the fall we'll be able to announce a course that we're taking, but we're having to work through it. The court decision threw a monkey wrench in it. There's no doubt about it. And so, but I think there is a workaround.
All right. So at this point, we still need the 2/3 vote, though.
Well, we would, yeah. We need city council approval and park board approval as well. So it's got to jump through a few hoops. So, but we're working on that. And
it's kind of like a home rule petition thing.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's treated as like that. It may be, but
same type of process, though, right?
Well,
everybody needs to sign off, including the legislature.
Similar set of hoops that you have to jump through. Yeah.
All right. So everything's on hold until that happens, right?
Yeah, essentially. Yeah.
Mayor, thanks for coming in. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Barry.
And we'll do it again next Wednesday or Thursday
or
Friday, maybe Tuesday. We haven't done a Tuesday show in a while.
Yeah.
So, all right, we're going to throw it into the news department. JR's got the local news. We're going to come back on the other side with your call. Stay with us. You're listening to 1420 WBSM, New Bedford.